Well, hello, Fearless Schools podcast audience. Welcome to part 2 of a special 3-part edition of the Fearless Schools podcast, where we uncover what's behind and beyond the cover of a sensational new publication from your pals, your friends, your confidants at Creative Leadership Solutions. That's right, we're going to be chatting with the authors of a great 3-part book from CLS. Of course, that's why it's a 3-part podcast. Got it? Yes, of course you do. And that book is called Fearless Instruction. So today we're going to learn about the book's inspiration and, of course, some of its information as we've done in the other podcasts as well, so we can check out that book with an even more appreciative and informed lens. And gosh, of course, we're always so glad that you're here with us to do that vital work. So let's get into it. I'm Dr. Drew Tomlin, your humble host, and I'm joined as always by Dr. Ann McCarty, Director of Professional Learning for CLS. There you go, Dr. Ann. How you doing?
Drew, this section, 90-90-90 strategies at work, let's do it.
There you go. There you go. All right. And so our esteemed authors, listen, tell us who you are a little bit and also why this book is so important for schools and your section in particular. So who you are and why this section is so important for school leaders.
I'll go ahead and start. I'm Dr. Maya-Lise Tolan and was very excited to be part of this publication. A big reason why is these are the 90-90-90 results are things that I used as a teacher and I learned about when I was in the classroom. And so getting to take the leadership lens and be able to write this for leaders to support their educators in taking this work forward, it was just exciting for me. And to even be able to use some of my own classroom examples when I had learned about the importance of feedback and the importance of grading, and be able to use that today to show that those best practices are still so relevant with so much research was really exciting.
Awesome. That's great to hear from the teacher's perspective. Awesome. Go ahead. Anybody else?
I'll jump in. I'm Allison Apsey, and I am an educational leader. I was started as a social studies teacher, been a principal of all levels, and now I get to travel the country with Creative Leadership Solutions and support educators across the country. And I'll tell you, I am so excited about this because this is like the nitty-gritty practical application. Every single chapter is like a step-by-step guide on how to implement the 90-90-90 practices. And one of my favorite components of Dr. Reeves' research around this is, these are schools with 90% low socioeconomics, 90% diversity, but getting 90% achievement results.
Right.
Which means these kids can do it. This research proved these kids can do it. And these steps are the guide on how to get them there. Like if you want to move the needle, this is the book for you. Can you tell how excited I am?
Oh my gosh. And all the metaphors, nitty gritty, moving the needles, step by step.
You're rubbing off on me, Drew.
I'm glad I could help. Likewise. All right. Who's up next up to bat?
I'll jump in. I'm Dr. Terry Metzger, and I'm currently a superintendent in California. And as I'm thinking about the audience for this book, I'm really thinking not just about teachers, but I'm thinking about principals as well. So what should principals be seeing when they're walking into classrooms, when they're observing teachers and observing learning? And I think that our principals will really be able to use this book as they help coach and mentor the teachers on their sites. So very excited to have this book in the hands of those who are at the forefront doing the actual work.
Awesome. Yep. An administrative tool that cannot be undervalued. It's awesome. That's great. All right. And anybody else? Ms. Freeland.
I would be the last one. I'm Dr. Freeland. I'm also an educational leader and enjoy the opportunities that I get to travel across the country and be in real classrooms with real teachers, working with real students. And to me, this resource is that missing piece that in so many schools, in so many districts, we talk the theory, but here we have this one-stop shop that puts everything together and tells you how to do it. How many times have we read a book that we got so excited over the ideas, and when we closed the covers, it's, okay, now what? This is step by step, and whether you start at the beginning and work to the end, or you start at the middle, go to the beginning, and then go to the end, or start at the end if you're one of those people who likes to read the last pages first, it tells you what you need to know to make significant changes in your school and change the learning experiences for students.
Wow. So not only practical, but like you said, you kind of have choice and voice as a reader about even where to start this thing. So that's great too. So and I can say as a school administrator, I'm excited to get my hands on this book too, so I can use it throughout the school year myself. So now the most important question with this section is, if this section was a food, what kind of food would it be and why? Aha!
Okay, I'll jump in on this one first.
Go ahead, Dr. Metzger.
It would be the main course.
Ooh.
It would be meat and potatoes.
Okay.
So this book is going to give you a good portion of a high quality steak with all of the sides that you need to have a delicious meal, and maybe even a nice glass of wine to go with that.
Oh, very nice. Well, we like to ease into the meal as well. And listen, and no fat on that steak. We're talking like nice trimmed up, like,
No, you have to have good marbling, Drew. Come on.
Oh, good marbling.
Yeah.
Well, jeez. All right, who's next up? I like that main course.
All right, I don't know how to follow that, but I was thinking fajitas.
Oh.
Because this section has like all of the pieces that if you put them together creates something really, really amazing.
Awesome.
I mean, Terry, like you went deep with that. That's all I got.
No. And like separately, like all the parts of a fajita, separately, they might make you think, oh, how does this really fit?
Ooh.
But when you put them on that plate and that plate comes out and it's sizzling, you know it's going to be something good. So,
oh yeah, this is a hot section.
Woo!
Spicy.
Appreciate that. All right, what else?
I went spicy, but I went the direct opposite of Terry. I went low country boil.
Low country boil.
Because you've got all of these fabulous, whether it's the seafood, the corn on the cob, the potatoes, all of these fabulous pieces, but there's that brothy, spicy flavor that ties it all together. So I can eat each of the pieces alone, but they're still tied together.
There you go. And that broth is just the right temperature. It's got to be nice and warm and nurturing. It can't be too hot. And of course, it can't be cold. So just like school culture and climate, it's got to be that right temperature to make it work there. All right, Dr. Tolan, what you got? Round it up here.
So when you asked that question, I started thinking, like, to me, it's a staple. I kind of go with the meat and potatoes, but I thought in our house, what is the ingredient or what is the food item that we always have to have in the house? And frustratingly, it's peanut butter, which I think is a great thing to have, but I get really annoyed that there's like multiple jars half full. But
Same.
You think of that, like that chapter is how that works too. Like you're going into this chapter for this little bit of it, then this chapter for this little bit in that section. So it is the Tolan peanut butter.
There you go. And with peanut butter, you can spread it on all kinds of different stuff. So the application of the chapter, you can spread it on different. Now, would you, maybe a sidebar question, would you go crunchy or creamy?
Well, I am Adam's crunchy all the way.
Ooh, all right.
So, yeah.
So a little bit of grit, a little bit of texture to it makes you appreciate this chapter all the more. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
But you're right. It goes on fruit. It goes on vegetables. Right. It's that peanut butter goes on
everything. There you go. So chapter 2, section 2, putting it all together is like putting that spread on the bread. Okay, so listen, the section is like I just said, putting it together, doing the work that matters. So the work your section talks about is, as kind of aforementioned, about grading, feedback, and even writing, right? Something that's near and dear to my heart. So why does that work especially matter and propel fearless instruction? Feedback, grading, writing. Why is that work that really matters?
I think that it's such an important section and topic because we are constantly in a society giving feedback. And so whether we're the one receiving the feedback, we're giving the feedback, we want to make sure that we are doing that in a receptive way that is directly tied to something that will make someone better. So whether it's an administrator giving the teacher feedback, the teacher giving the students feedback, the students giving each other feedback to end in some sort of a final grade, whether it's the evaluation or the letter grade that they end up getting, we want to make sure that we are doing it in a way that can be received and can be intentional and helps make everybody better. We want feedback when we know that the intention of it is pure. It's designed so that we can improve, and then we can take that and do something with it.
There you go. Right. Obviously, the intention can be received so we can become better. Yes. All right. Anybody else? Why is the work that matters in this section so important?
You know, there's a quote that says, the great thing about teaching is that it matters, and the hardest thing about teaching is that it matters every day.
Mm,
And I feel like this section of the book is about what matters every day. And so setting high expectations for learning, setting high expectations for teaching, setting high expectations for feedback, for that kids know the success criteria ahead of time. How are they going to be graded? What is that going to look like? What does it look like if I'm proficient? What does it look like if I'm not quite there yet? And those are the things that we're doing every day. And so to build on what Myelise said, that, you know, that feedback happens all day, every day, in every single classroom across school campuses. And this section of the book is really about that.
Yeah.
It's about all those things that matter every day.
Right. Being consistent about it. Like feedback and grading aren't just something that happens at the end of a unit or at the end of a 9 weeks or a semester. This is something that we're constantly doing, and it's for the good. Awesome. Anybody else?
And I'll add to that word consistency, calibration, because it provides this opportunity for teachers to calibrate across classrooms, so we are getting a more consistent experience, whether with how we deliver feedback and use feedback, how we incorporate nonfiction writing, what we believe rigor to be, how we grade and use rubrics. It creates some calibration for consistency across classrooms.
Awesome. And that's a necessity. Go ahead, Allison.
I want to speak to your heart for a minute, Drew, and
please.
talk about nonfiction writing in
Thank you.
particular, because the 90-90-90 research tells us that schools who engage in nonfiction writing across the curriculum have higher gains in student achievement. And I know that these incredible leaders on the podcast, and you included, Drew, like, we can walk into a classroom, we can look at the walls, and we can look at what students are doing, and we can identify whether this is a high-performing, high-achieving class or low-achieving. And one of those major indicators is writing. If we see writing on the wall, I can tell you this class is going to score higher on the state assessment. But here's the other part of the research around writing. This is not scientific research, but it also, if you mention writing to kids, what do? They groan. Because writing becomes a task to our students rather than a form of communication. And we want them to look at nonfiction writing as a way of expressing themselves, as a form of like metacognition. And there's so many opportunities to do that across the curriculum. But there is some research that tells us that, you know, who's maybe more afraid of writing instruction than kids? It's teachers. I literally was at a conference and I was talking to a principal who was sharing a brilliant idea. And I said, have you written about this idea yet? He's like, Allison, I went to college with math as my major for a reason, because I never wanted to write again. Like, how many adults feel that way? And how can we teach something and feel successful in something that we are scared of and don't feel competent in? And what we really need is a clear picture of what the end game is. And then we need each other. Like, what strategies are we using? We really need to talk about student motivation, not only the high expectations and the consistency in writing, but how can we keep students engaged and motivated in nonfiction writing?
Exactly. And it's at no disparagement to fiction writing. You know, I love writing poetry and writing stories and things like that. But that works the mind in a different way, and it works the heart in a different way than nonfiction. Nonfiction gets the brain going in a different way. I mean, goodness gracious, it makes me harken back to the interview we did with Kim Marshall, who's the author of the Marshall Memo. He spent his early years working on nonfiction writing as a youngster, and look at where it brought him. So it's about those strategies, being consistent about them, and like Dr. Phelan said, being consistent with our transparency, with how it's going to look and how kids are going to be graded and scored and just evaluated on all that work. So, and then doing all that while also still motivating them at the same time. It's not easy at all, is it? But this chapter sheds some light on how to do it and make it easier. So listen, any other advice that you would give to, a school leader who's thinking about doing this book, and how does that school leader put it into place, and maybe some minefields to avoid while teaching this chapter or this book?
Well, I think some of my colleagues have mentioned not doing it all. Like, you cannot take this book and implement every single practice. Now, do I think you would enjoy reading this book cover to cover? Absolutely, because it is an engaging, easy to read text full of incredible information and strategies. But then you have to pick, what practices are you going to focus on? And how you pick what the practice is, we look at what the data says. What are our biggest needs? And we're not just talking like percentage data, but we're talking about like our observational data, survey data, what students are thinking, those kind of data pieces. Where are our biggest needs, and where should we start in order to get the biggest like bang for our buck to begin with?
Right. It's like your fajitas. You don't put all the ingredients of the fajita in one tortilla. You got to space it out.
I love that tie back to the fajitas.
I'm trying. All right, Dr. Vector, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was just going to, just thinking about what Allison just said, thinking about where have you been as a school, right? What are the things that you've been working on that you maybe can just strengthen a little bit? Like this book, you'll be able to see yourself and your own work in this book. And you'll be able to say, oh, like we've tackled that already. Our PLCs are up and running, but we haven't tackled nonfiction writing yet. Or we've been really working on fast feedback, but it hasn't yet translated to our report cards or our grading system. And so I think that there are a lot of entry points in this book where you can say, oh, we've done this work, and now if we go in this direction, we can really leverage that to take our learning to the next level.
There you go. Yeah, like any good text, there's windows as well as mirrors, right? So that's awesome. All right, Dr. Tolan.
I think one of the things I really like about this book, and I reflect to when I was giving teacher feedback, and I never wanted to paralyze them with so many things to work on or so many things. And I love teaching and education. So for me, that isn't overwhelming because I just love it all so much. But for somebody else that's learning and they're new to the profession, or you're asking them to make some changes, it can be very overwhelming. And so like Allison was saying, this book could be overwhelming if you just handed it to someone and said cover to cover. They might feel like, I have to implement all of this. But what I love about this book and what I would do with teachers is I like being able to give them a chapter resource. Like, here, I want you to borrow this book, but just look at this part. This is all we're working on right now. And the book is broken up so well to do that if they want to go deeper, they could read other sections and they could continue to learn more, or they could read just this section or just this chapter and be able to get a lot of great tools to help immediately in the classroom without overwhelming them.
There you go. Wow. I mean, it's like we do with students. You set up a reading purpose that can help students as well. And it can help our faculty as they go through this book as well. Anybody else with a good advice for school leaders to implement this book properly?
Use the tools. It is chock full of wonderful tools. And we're always looking for that resource. Here's one place you don't have to go to a teacher-paid teacher site. We have some really great stuff already in there for you. And so it would be a shame not to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So listen, as we're wrapping up, any final thoughts about this particular section of the book and why it's such an awesome section and why people need to go out and get this thing? And you can even do a hashtag, one word, if you wanted to.
I don't even know what I would say because I'm just so proud of the book. It is.
There you go.
So many fantastic authors that contributed to that. And every time we would look at it, it was just overwhelming to think that we did it, with all these different ideas and voices and the impact that it will be able to have on education, on students directly. Every chapter, you can see how it will impact a student's life. And I'm just thankful I got to be a part of it. I'm super, super proud of the work.
You're right, Miley. I was just like smiling ear to ear as you were talking. But so two things. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Ann McCarty-Perez for all of her work and putting Fearless Instruction together. It was not an easy job, and she tackled that with grace, and the outcome is just absolutely beautiful. But the other thing that I want to say is I was able to be at several conferences recently, and I hear all of this chatter, doesn't surprise me, about state assessment scores. And I hear from school leaders like, we are working so hard. Why is the needle not moving? This makes no sense to us. And I'm telling you, this is an opportunity to move the needle. This is the one book you need to read this summer and to think about as your school team individually, however you need to go about it, what practices to put in place, because these are the practices that will actually move the needle.
And not just move the needle, Allison. I've been thinking a lot and talking with teachers a lot about student motivation. And, a lot of teachers, a lot of schools and districts are seeing student behavior as a concern, right? That there are a lot of kids are dysregulated. And one of the things that we've all experienced is that when schools start putting in some of these practices, I think it goes back to what Emily said about consistency and calibration, that kids are rooted in what's fair, right? And so when they know the success criteria ahead of time, and they know what they're working toward, that's fair. And they feel that. And a lot of kids will buy in or re-engage when they feel like the system is fair. And this part of the book in particular really sets up the system for kids to be successful. And that motivates kids. And so that's a lot what I'm thinking about as I'm thinking about what I'm going to talk to my teachers about in just a couple weeks as school's getting ready to start and we bring them back. When kids come back on campus, what's it going to look like for them? And how are we going to motivate and engage them? And there's so much in this book that really addresses those questions that everybody's having as we enter a new school year.
Yes, it's reassuring that this resource is out there with those big questions. Dr. Freeland, what you got?
In putting all these pieces together, just thinking about even good teachers have an opportunity to up their game by zeroing in on the strategies outlined in these chapters, because it brings so much more focus and intention to what we're doing. It's that old proverbial, sharpen the knife to really hone those skills to really make us better.
Yeah. It's like that steak. You can't cut it with a butter knife. You gotta keep sharpening that knife so you can dig into the main course. Listen, I got #proud, #voices, #impact, #Dr. Ann, #needle mover, #reengage, and #up your game. There you go. Mic drop. So listen, thank you guys so much for helping to not only make this podcast awesome, but for also writing such a great section of Fearless Instruction. So taking time out of your busy lives, busy days, not only as authors, but also just wonderful people. Audience, guess what? You did it once again. Take a moment to check out the Fearless Instruction book, our Creative Leadership Solutions website, and let folks know just how super cool they both are, right? So listen, I'm Dr. Drew Tomlin, host of your Fearless Schools podcast, wishing you well and saying stay fearless on the bright road forward. Thanks again, authors.